This is maybe the cold open. I'm just going to give it a second to make sure that we are live before I go ahead and blow things up. This is the Action Cast, the only podcast that doesn't pollute. And now, our feature presentation.
Is that what we're going with? Doesn't pollute?
Yeah.
All right.
Are there a lot of really memorable lines from this movie? I can't really think of any. I didn't memorize the song.
Back when we first started podcasting, I bought all those carbon
carbon
offsets,
tokens. Yeah,
so,
offset tokens.
Right,
we're going to use those up, I guess, on this podcast tonight.
That's
so.
right. That's right.
But you know what? We're finally catching in. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
The timing on this, we did not plan this to be timed as well as it is, but unfortunately the timing on this is actually really good. Because tonight we're going to talk about Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, aka Godzilla versus Hedorah, and today is also the day that basically like the UN climate report came out that said like unless we change course in a pretty considerable way, we're super fucked.
Yeah, we fixed it. Good job, team.
We're super fucked. But we can fix it if we want to.
I would just watch this movie. We've known since at least 1971 that we were fucked.
Yeah, 50 years. 50 years. Godzilla was telling us, don't fucking do this. And we didn't listen to Godzilla 50 years ago. And here
we're still not listening to Godzilla today.
We're still not. Maybe today we'll start listening to Godzilla.
Well...
So usually we do the news, but we skipped a month last month and there's too much news and I don't really give a shit. Does anybody have any news?
Give a shit.
They want to talk about? All right, cool. Yeah. So this movie was a suggestion of Ethan. So before we get super into the film itself,
Clancy Brown is going to be in John Wick 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
I like that.
I'm in on that.
I'm into that. Yeah, absolutely.
Just the stories that were in. Muppets Haunted Mansion first look images reveal Kermit dressed as Miss Piggy.
Yep,
okay.
Saw that.
Conservatives hate it.
No, they hate Gonzo in a dress. They don't have...
Yeah, that's true. That's an actual
real
thing that's happening and not like a thing that Joe made up.
Yeah.
Next.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Next.
So I like how you were the one who always hates the news. Then you started reading news items, like just so you could next yourself, I guess. I don't even...
Listen, all Clancy Brown news is good news.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
Unless if he dies. But
if it was anybody else, I wouldn't have said anything. But
yeah,
glad to have Clancy Brown.
Yeah, dude, one of the real ones. The Kurgan himself, Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
And that guy from Buckaroo Banzai, whose name I don't remember.
I was gonna say, and he's the doctor, and John dies at the end. The astrophysicist or whatever, and John dies at the end.
Literally, the only thing I remember about that movie is when the door knob turns into a dick.
Yes, they nailed that effect. Really,
I really enjoyed that book, and
I wish I'd seen the movie before. Yeah, I wish I'd seen the movie before I read the book. I really.
Anyway,
do.
What are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about Godzilla versus Hedorah, aka Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, which is 50 years old this year, came out in 1971, and also is considered by a lot of people to be the moment where Godzilla jumped the shark. So
I don't remember any sharks in this movie.
That's right.
There's like a bunch of mutated fish and tadpoles and stuff.
You know, this happened.
You might see some baby sharks.
This happened.
Not.
No.
This happened before Fonz jumped the shark.
I'll make the joke again when Anthony gets here.
That's right. So
very good.
So I think maybe that Fonzie jumping the shark should have been referred to as Godzilla flying, the flying Godzilla. The Happy Days pulled a flying Godzilla when Fonzie jumped over the shark, because that is apparently the moment that a lot of people point at as like, this is when these movies got incredibly dumb. But some people say dumb.
The movie about the giant fucking whatever. Yeah.
But I mean, the like saving grace of that is that he looks so graceful when he does it.
He does. Also, like, all these movies are except like the first one, which is still even now is like this very sort of oppressive, kind of hard to watch movie. I mean, it's a science fiction monster movie, but like Godzilla is treated as very terrifying. He's a metaphor for the atomic bomb. There's a lot of stuff going on in the original Godzilla, the Japanese cut, not the Perry Mason version. Although even that movie has some stuff going on. And not the weird Italian version, which I'd really like to see. I've only seen clips of it, but I really want to see the Italian Godzilla. Do you guys know about that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Godzilla with a mustache.
Yeah,
Going,
right.
hey,
yeah.
a pizza.
Yeah.
The picture of two Godzillas pointing at each other.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, it's somebody, I can't remember the distributor or the producer who got a hold of it, but he like colorized it, but in the most garish way by like painting right onto a 35 millimeter print and inserted a bunch of random footage from things that aren't Godzilla. And apparently it's just totally fucking wild. And
Suspiria and Django were weird choices, but
yeah, basically, kind of, but
it works.
It's that kind of vibe. So I've never actually seen it, but I'm told it's not easy to get a hold of now, but I think it's on archive somewhere. So,
that's where I watched this movie. So
yeah, this one, I was going to watch both until I realized that actually the English version, aside from having a silly like AIP dub, is actually not that different from the Japanese version. So I skipped it. It's not one of the ones that was like cut all to hell and back. Like some of the other Godzilla movies, but I didn't count, but I think this was on disc 5 of my Godzilla Criterion Blu-ray set, which means that it is like in the middle end of the original, the Showa era of Godzilla films, which, again, you get diminishing returns kind of as you go on with these movies. But Ethan, this was your suggestion. So why did you know that the UN's climate change report was coming out today and just wanted the synchronicity, or what
other wisdom do you have to share with us?
Yes.
No, I didn't. That was just a very happy, in fact, extremely just joyous and really rousing coincidence. I'm sure the report will lift my spirits. No, I was just looking at any movies that were approaching a big anniversary, and I saw that this, in addition to, like you said, it's 50 years old, but it's like we're only, how many days is that? Like 2 weeks.
Like 2 weeks.
About after the 50-year anniversary. So that's nice. Also, so when I was growing up, my brother was a huge kaiju movie fan, and I really was not. So I saw bits and pieces of a bunch of them by osmosis, and I kind of had this vague knowledge that Godzilla versus Hedorah was like a really weird one, and then read some more about it and how like the director Yoshimitsu Banno kind of went rogue on this movie maybe and wasn't invited back, wasn't involved with another Godzilla movie until the 2000s.
The 2014 American Godzilla was he was a producer on that. That was like his reintroduction to the franchise, which is wild.
Yeah, and it's 85 minutes long, and I want movies to be that long again.
Well, I said Bryce was coming down on it a couple months ago when we talked about it a little bit before. I don't remember which episode it was, but I saw Godzilla versus Kong. It was the first movie I saw in a theater in over a year, and it comes in at under 2 hours, and I was just delighted that there was this Hollywood tentpole special effects heavy big movie that clocked in at under 2 hours, and I really appreciated that. And I agree. I think we need to remember how to make short movies again.
The thing
they're
is we
so
don't
expensive, you can't afford to make them short.
We don't make short movies anymore. We make long TV shows. You know what I mean? Or like mini. You know what I mean? They do like a 10-hour movie instead.
Right. Yeah.
They don't.
Sure.
They don't make a long movie. They don't make a short movie. They say we'll stretch it out.
Yeah.
And do a TV show, and they do a 10-episode event series.
Make 3.5 hour movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but this is. My story is, I guess, similar to Ethan's. This is the first Godzilla movie I remember seeing, knowing that it was Godzilla. There are certain things that I feel like you just kind of absorb through through pop culture. I think I don't remember exactly because it was 10 years ago, but I feel like when we talked about Rambo, we kind of talked about this. Where like people think of Rambo, and what they're really thinking of is First Blood Part 2 and
Part
Rambo
2,
3, and
yeah.
they're not actually thinking of
First Blood.
First Blood. And I think that people kind of like absorb Godzilla and think of these later movies where he's fighting other monsters and don't think of the original one. And this one was the first one I saw where I was aware that this was a Godzilla movie, and the scene of the sludge coming down the steps into the nightclub like stuck with me the whole time. And actually, so I really liked, even though it's like kind of generally considered to be like one of the really bad ones, if not one of the very worst, I always kind of had a soft spot for it because it was the first one I saw. And I remember being like really pretty scared of the Smog monster. And his like weird UFO form where he's like flying around spraying sulfuric acid mist onto everybody and stuff. And so I actually also really like Hedorah's design because it's really obvious. Like with all these movies, it's just a dude in a suit. And it's the kind of thing where if they did it now, he would be like runny and drippy and sort of like more like a blob monster. But in this movie, he's like a resin creature who can liquefy like when he wants to, which is a fun. I just think the way he's designed.
I feel like he doesn't do a good job of taking advantage of this whole suite of powers.
Yeah, I mean,
Budget.
right. You can tell. That's the thing that really stuck out to me. I don't want to get ahead of myself, I guess, but I feel like almost all the monster battles just kind of take place in like a black void. Like they couldn't build a good miniature set because they couldn't afford it or whatever. So there's like one city battle, and then the rest are just.
It blew all the budget on those fish masks.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
In my memory, that was true of a lot of Godzilla movies. Maybe that's wrong, but I feel like there were a bunch of them. Maybe it is a bunch of them from the 70s and early 80s, where they kind of like fight in the general vicinity of Mount Fuji.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
just a vast expanse of miniature wilderness.
Yeah. But the earlier ones, like especially the first one, I mean the first one, he's the only monster, so he's just destroying the city. So they had to build a city set for that.
Yeah.
And then raids again, and even the original Godzilla versus Kong, not the one that came out this year, but the 61 or whatever version. Like they fight.
Did Kong bow to anyone in that first movie, or
No, it's a draw. Like they fight
I
each
get
other
it.
into the ocean in the first one.
seems like in the ocean Godzilla would have a distinct advantage.
Well, that's just where it ends, though. It just ends at they fall into the ocean together.
They just go
The
swimming together?
end. Yeah, basically.
It was a long, hard battle, and then they decided to hang out in the hot tub post-fight.
That's right.
Yeah, some of those aches and pains, yeah.
That's right. So we don't need to explain Godzilla, right? Like that's not something we need to do.
I think we already did like
before
3 times, like pretty much with what we were just
Before we-
talking about.
Yeah, so I don't know. I do we want to go like point by point, sort of down the story arc of this fucking extremely weird Godzilla movie, or
I think that would be helpful. It's a simple, short story.
yeah,
And I mean, if you trying to think back, like I watched this movie 2 hours ago, and it's like a fever dream.
it is. It really is. I watched it last night, and it is it's like a fever dream. So basically, one of the things I hate about some entertainment directed at children is they make the main character a kid, or there is like a very prominent child insert character where like the kid audience is supposed to identify with the kid. And like we definitely talked about this in the last Action Hero when we talked about that, and how like if the fucking kid wasn't in the movie and it was just Jack Slater as a parody of action movies, it would probably be a better movie. But there's this obnoxious like kid insert, audience POV character like walking around to point out how silly everything is, and it's really annoying. This movie kinda also does that. The main character is a little boy named Ken. He is like a second grader, and boy, do I wish he wasn't in this movie.
He represents the future, Joe.
He does. That is true.
It's the future of all mankind.
But like the young
He's
cool
also
uncle.
the only character in the movie who knows fucking anything at any time.
that is true.
That's another common trope with movies with kids, where the kid is the smart one and all the adults are dumb idiots.
Yeah. So Ken is the son of a prominent like environmental scientist.
Noted moron.
Yeah. There's like a local fisherman who brings him specimens. He's like a marine biologist, I guess, or whatever. And like one of the local fishermen brings him this like mutant tadpole looking thing. And he's like, I was fishing where, I used to always be able to get shrimp, but there was no shrimp. There was just this oily fucking tadpole. And as you said, Eric, the little boy like catches on right away.
But it's a smog monster.
That it's a smog monster. And it turns out, we don't find this out right away, but we find out pretty soon that like Hedorah is kind of like a jellyfish. Like he's not one organism. He's like a colony of smaller organisms that can join together.
Sort of. They explain that, and they show it in the little petri dish.
Yeah.
We never see more than one come together.
That's true. That I suspect that is budget related.
Yeah.
But Hedorah, yeah. So we see that in a little like Ethan says, eventually the big gross slimy tadpole dries out, and he's like, this is like a mineral. It's like a rock. And then when he puts it back in the gross like scuzzy water from the bay that they live on, it like comes back to life as a tiny tadpole. And when he puts two of them together, they swim and merge into a slightly bigger tiny tadpole. And then when he goes diving to look around, as it's growing, also it's like feeding on pollution and growing bigger. And it's sinking tankers and presumably like drinking the oil and the gasoline. It powers the engine and whatever is on. It's like eating and drinking the pollution and sucking it all up and getting bigger and bigger. But it touches the scientist on the face, and he gets like a chemical burn. And when the TV like news comes to ask him what happened, and his wife is like, no, don't like put that on TV, and he's like, no, they must know. I want them to see my burned face so they'll like take how we're polluting seriously. And it's like, well, fucking California's been on fire for like the last 3 years and no one takes it seriously, so I don't know that your burned face is going to make a difference. But
yeah, but in the 70s they didn't know that.
Yeah,
right. I think when we see him and his face is torn up by the acid, the transition before that, I think maybe is one piece of this movie where the economy of the running time went a little too far. So we see the son on this pier, I guess, calling out for his dad, and it's like this long wide shot where the waves are crashing up against this pier, and he's like losing hope. It's like a really evocative shot, I think, like one of a couple in this movie. And then we're just back home, and the dad is back.
Yes. Yeah, right. Well, he stabs a little smog monster too. Like one jumps out of the water at him, and he like, cuts it in half with his.
Yeah, it's like Free Willy, but Free Willy is an evil smog monster, and the kid knifes Willy in the head.
Instead of reaching up to touch him on the belly, he reaches up with a knife,
and Free Willy just dumps his innards all over that kid's head as it jumps over the wall.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
It's exactly that shot though.
Yeah,
in this movie.
Yeah, it is. And so he gets a burn on his hand, the little kid. And then when the TV camera's there, he's like, "No, I got burned too." Like he wants to be like famous for having his hand burned.
Don't we all, kid? Don't we all?
Yeah.
A million Hollywood stories. They all start the same.
I showed my chemical burn to.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so the kid is like.
Yep.
Like you said, the kid is like hip to what's going on right away. He's like, this is a pollution monster. It's eating the pollution, and we need Godzilla to come and stop it.
Yeah, the kid is like a really big Godzilla fan.
Yes.
And he's got even a toy of Godzilla.
He's got two toys.
Wouldn't that be like for us if we had like a toy of 9/11?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like fucking like his Osama bin Laden doll or some shit.
Well, by 1971, Godzilla had fought off a bunch of other monsters, right?
Yeah, I think maybe that's like I'm familiar with the Godzilla mythos, but I sort of like enter into any individual movie just with the framework of the mythos,
Right.
not like it's a
Because like Godzilla had saved the world several times.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been meaning to watch this whole Criterion set in order and sort of absorb them that way, but I have not had a chance. So I don't know what the immediate prior events involving Godzilla were before this
big.
movie. He was always
He
big.
still is.
Thanks, Anthony.
Well, if he's always big, maybe that means he's just normal sized.
According to this, it was All Monsters Attack was the one that predates this one. So
What happens
All
in
of
that?
them.
Can I get a
All the
Godzilla and his son beat the crap out of a bunch of different monsters. It looks like.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. This can't be the worst Godzilla movie because Manila's
There's
not
also
in it.
a highly imaginative but lonely
The
latchkey
gorilla?
kid living in a city.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Yeah, as long as Manila's not in this movie, it means that it can't be
The
the worst
gorilla.
Godzilla movie because
I forgot about Manila, but I remember being like as a little kid like disgusted with the design of Manila.
he is really gross looking. He is really gross looking.
Yeah, like-
He
I'm
actually
looking
looks like Godzilla's like extreme elderly grandmother and not his son.
He also looks kind of like the baby from that show Dinosaurs,
Dinosaur
Yes.
show. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah.
but like
Yes.
with a weird man body.
Yeah. Yep. I hate Manila so much. I hate Manila. So this
Like
movie
vanilla.
doesn't have
Ice
that,
cream.
which is good. This
Nailed
movie
it.
doesn't have that either. But so the kid,
this movie,
the kid
then.
has like a psychic connection with Godzilla. Apparently, like Godzilla
Sure.
basically tells him when he's gonna show up and wreck shit.
And everyone else accepts that as like, oh yeah.
Do they accept it, or are they just like patronizing the little kid and being like, "Okay, if you think he's coming, like, all right, kid."
I think maybe that happens the first time, and then there's a scene later where I think he tells his dad that Godzilla's coming, and his dad seems to take it at face value,
Yeah,
according to the subtitles anyway.
yeah. God, Jesus, Anthony. I like the terrible compositing in the picture you chose as well. That's fantastic.
If we still release these as podcasts, this would be the cover art for
That-
this, even though it's not for
It's
the
not
record.
in
it's not in
movie,
this
yeah.
movie.
And yet,
But so eventually, Hedorah. So the boy is also the one who gives the creature the name Hedorah, because the Japanese word Hedoro, I believe, means like sludge, and so he calls it Hedorah.
pollution or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
read something about that. Yeah.
And so the little boy says, "Oh, he's Hedorah. It's Hedorah." And Hedorah eventually. So, Ethan, you were talking about striking images. I think maybe the most striking image in this film, especially of a person in a weird rubber monster suit, is when Hedorah is just like huffing the shit out of those smokestacks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like-
That's one of the few that I had in mind.
Yeah, like it's kind of in the image that we have up on the screen. That this is the poster that I'm using, the theatrical poster, the Japanese poster. But like, it's not. It's better done in the film. The shot is framed better, and like it's this dark. It's like this industrial area that's like kind of shut down for the night. There are no people around. There are no cars, and Hedorah is just doing fucking bong rips off these smokestacks, and it is kind of haunting just because like it's this giant pollution monster just like, and I mean it's way on the nose, right? It's super on the nose because it's a Godzilla movie, but it's still just like, oh right, we're creating
In
the
the 70s.
monster that's going to kill us. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing. There it is. But it actually turns out we didn't really create Hedorah. Hedorah came. Sorry, we're not at the science lesson yet, are we, Ethan? I feel like you probably took better notes than I did.
But the science lesson, I
yeah.
feel like is that the petri dish?
The
or
dad,
whatever that is?
the dad explains where he thinks Hedorah came from, and we get this like National Geographic slideshow of the Horsehead Nebula and Andromeda, the Andromeda Galaxy, and like it's like a film strip that you would watch in elementary school.
Yeah, but that's not surprising at this point in the movie because the movie opens up First of all, this movie has incredible music wall to wall.
Yes.
It's like bassoon-driven jazz music, like kind of loungy
Also-
70s jazz.
But they also mix that with a lot of mouth harp,
Yes,
especially
yes,
when they're doing like the long, slow shots of the sludge in the ocean.
There's a great mouth harp scene.
Yeah, there is.
And then there's a lot of these like kind of like non-narrative video montages with these animations that look kind of like Magic School Bus a little bit.
Kind of, yeah, like cheap, but I feel like they're more again like they're
like painted. They
Yeah.
look kind of nice.
they're like actually you know what they're kind of like Schoolhouse Rock a little bit, some of them, or like the early Sesame Street, like the what's the Sesame Street one where it's like a stick of butter and a gallon of milk and it's like that.
A loaf of bread.
Yeah, right. It's that animation reminds me a lot of that Sesame Street animation. Especially the one where the two women pass each other and become faces, and then the faces become part of the map. That one reminded me a lot of a Sesame Street, but like more bleak than Sesame Street, obviously.
Episode title: More bleak than Sesame Street.
But yeah, there's this whole.
Sounds like a good insult too. Like this shit's more bleak than Sesame Street.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. But yeah, speaking of the music, we're right about at the part. So when Hedorah's huffing the smokestacks, he starts like spreading his sludge around, and that's when
Oh, gross.
the kids
Put that away.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure if the young man was the kid's older brother, but it turns out he's his uncle. His young cool uncle is at this like hippie nightclub, and
Yes, the uncle.
yes, and
No.
he's like he must have took a tab of acid before he went out, because his girlfriend is singing, and as I said in the email thread, she's wearing this like not latex, like a spandex catsuit with sea life all over it, including a clam over her clam, which cannot be an accident. And he starts seeing fish people in the nightclub, and this is while Hedorah's just like outside getting high on the smokestacks.
It's important to note here that the outfits are dated. There's some questionable choices, and like kind of the vibe of the party in general is pretty outdated. But the music is absolutely fucking sick.
I don't think it's that outdated though, right? Because like the new decade doesn't really start until a couple of years into the decade, right? So it feels a little 60s. It feels like watching. These feel like people that you would see Joe Friday shake down in an episode of 60s Dragnet. That's what these people feel like. And yeah, he starts hallucinating that everybody
the Trout Mask replica theme party.
Right. He starts hallucinating that everybody has fish heads in the nightclub. There's like a skeleton thing going on. It's really weird for what is ostensibly a children's movie.
And I think that scene isn't it kind of intercut with Godzilla's appearance and his first confrontation with Hedorah, where he does the giant swing.
Yes, absolutely. Which also inadvertently kills a bunch of old dudes playing mahjong in a room, and like a bunch of Hedorah's sludge just like goes through a window and like melts a bunch of dudes who are just trying to hang out and gamble with each other.
It's another lesson: gambling is wrong.
Mm-hmm. And Hedorah's bad.
Yes.
I know he's good if he killed the gambler. Shit.
No, gambling is good. Oh no.
Falling apart on me.
No.
Is bad. He is bad in this movie because just after he's introduced, we see him like he sees this floating, oily, nasty garbage patch on the ocean, and he's upset. So he just blasts it with his breath and sets it on fire. Like he sacrifices the airborne environment to protect his own, which I feel like is an evil, selfish thing.
I don't know. I mean, isn't his breath also just like straight radioactive fire? So, I mean, really anytime he uses his breath weapon, he's
yeah, I guess so.
But we kind of ignore that after the original movie.
I mean,
just
technically
sort of
guns are good, but like people believe that you could use them for good, although they're like wrong.
Deep Thoughts by Alex
Deep
Rio.
Thoughts.
How many smokestacks were you?
That's what
Yeah,
I was about to say. I was gonna say I hit too many smokestacks before like I came in.
Then
Like, think
then
about
Alex
that, man.
turned into a flying saucer and farted away into space.
Yeah, right. So that's the toxic flatulence of Hedorah is like a sulfuric acid, thing. And they talk about how he's like evolving. Like he was like a tadpole when he was taking down the tankers, and then he became like a frog when he came on land, and then he becomes
A guy in a rubber suit, and then
Right.
becomes a flying
becomes a
saucer
flying
that farts.
saucer that farts sulfuric
Yeah.
acid. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
I think we've all been through those. Those are the 4 stages of really all life.
Right. Yes.
So.
Exactly.
You guys remember when you were a sludge frog jumping
Oh, boy.
across? Yeah.
It's like it was yesterday.
Those were the
Remember when we
days.
took out all those boats? I do.
Remember when we farted all that sulfur?
Yeah, that was tonight.
But it
And thus podcasts were invented.
That's right. That's right. So Godzilla fights him and kind of just like drives him back into the ocean, and then goes back into the ocean with him, blasts him with his radioactive breath, but it doesn't actually hurt. He sparks. That's the doctor thinks it's very important that sparks fly off of Hedorah when he gets hit with Godzilla's radioactive breath. Though now I can't remember why. Ethan, help me out. Why does it matter that Hedorah sparked when he got nuked by
If it
Godzilla?
sparks, we can
think
kill it.
in his mind, well, yeah, in his mind, I guess since there were sparks instead of some other kind of thing that would happen to flesh, that shows that he's made of,
He's made of a mineral. That's right.
metal, because metal
Yeah.
sparks.
Right.
Also, in that fight sequence, Godzilla punches into Hedorah, and his hand goes through Hedorah's outer layer and gets kind of like poisoned with some kind of burning substance. And Godzilla's reaction is to give himself one of those like arm wringer front somersault back bumps.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. There's a number of monster fights in this movie, and I don't think that any of them is actually particularly good. But
I mean, it's obvious that whoever was in the Godzilla suit was miserable.
Haruo Nakajima, who I believe played Godzilla many times,
Oh, okay.
12 consecutive films, starting with the original 1954 Godzilla, and then he did one more after this. He did Godzilla vs. Gigan in 1972. And then
There
that
were
was
less
it.
dumpy looking Godzillas before this, right?
Well, the suit, I think this might be like the same suit, and that's why it kind of looks like shit, right? Like the suit is like starting to fall apart. I think. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess it would be like 18 years old foam and latex.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it looks like he's not exactly loving life in the Godzilla suit by this point. But that's how
There's
it.
kind of a lull in the action after this. Where
Yeah.
everyone, it seems like their life goes back to normal.
Yeah, for like a day or two, they just like pretend
They
like
ride a
there's
roller
not,
coaster in an empty theme park.
and then someone paints a silhouette of Godzilla on the film for some reason. Which the kid is like, I saw Godzilla. He's coming back. That means Hedorah's back. So they like bail on their day at the amusement park.
No, somebody tells him that. Yeah, that is a scene where somebody denies his telepathic powers. It
Yeah.
said basically that Hedorah wouldn't come back on a sunny day. Which,
Oh right, that's right, because they think that
sure why they know
he'll
that.
dry out. No, because they think that he'll dry out like the tadpole
Oh.
in the petri dish did,
I
without
see.
not realizing that he's evolved to his next form.
Is that the flying saucer form?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
sure is. And then he comes
Obviously.
back, and for a children's movie, I mean, the stuff with Godzilla punching into him and like sludge pouring out is pretty gross for a kids movie. But watching Hedorah just like spray people down and melt their flesh off down until they're skeletons. I mean, you don't see them like melt. It's not like Street Trash where they're like melting, on film.
Did any of you have a copy of this movie where the kid he was running through the town, seeing what has just happened, and he sees a couple people on the ground who are burned down to skeletons, and he says, "Ouch!"
Yes. Yep.
Incredible. So good.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. And the one I have is the Criterion edition, so I assume that must be the correct subtitle, right? So, yeah, and like, then the Hedorah flies through like an unfinished building, and his acid like sludge melts the girders. I guess like jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but Hedorah can, and the building collapses in on itself after he like flies through it. And then we find out that Ken's mom is like a gym teacher at the local school, and they all get misted with the sulfuric acid mist from Hedorah, and so they all have to like run inside. And then there's another animated bit where they talk about how they're selling like anti-Hedorah like gas masks to people.
Is that the same animated sequence where they have that grid of images all over?
Capitalism.
Capitalism. Yeah, there you go. Good. We're on the same page.
If this was now, Tucker Carlson would just be like, Hedorah's not a threat. What do we know about Godzilla? Maybe Godzilla's the threat.
I mean, what do we even know about Godzilla? That's my Tucker Carlson impression. Yeah. I guess that's really more Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is consider for a moment. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Godzilla is not a radioactive.
Your brain makes me sad.
Alex, what are you doing?
I love it. I love what's happening.
What?
I think it's hilarious, Alex. I like
it. Well, they're doing a shtick. They're doing what I'm doing.
They are
doing it for money.
That's right,
and it works.
Yeah.
So,
mm-hmm.
Anyway, Joe Rogan also has a shtick.
Here's
which
$5.
I like.
Good job.
Which I like that his stick is really. That's what it is. This thing you said, and it's like you sound like a confused dog, and he's like, "I know, I'm an idiot," but really, he says he's an idiot, and it's like, "Yeah, you're right, but you're also a anyway." Fuck.
It's the solid snake conversation.
I stopped this whole time. I've been only half paying attention because I'm playing video games, and I didn't watch the movie. And then now, the second I stopped for a second, I'm like, "Fuck, I'm mad." I gotta get back to doing stuff.
I want to keep talking about what like conservative talking heads of our day how they would react to Godzilla versus Hedorah.
All right, well, let's keep going.
Yeah,
Bill O'Reilly. I mean, come on. His name is Godzilla. There's only one God, folks.
Christ.
Rush Limbaugh would just say the N-word a bunch of times. And everyone would be like, how's that related to Godzilla?
I thought that was Don Imus.
Yeah, Don Imus. He's dead now, isn't he? But I mean, I'm just thinking of
too, right?
Yeah, they both are. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But Hannity's still alive.
Films where a giant rubber monster fights 90s and 2000s talking head morons.
I'm all in on that.
How much money would you guys pay to see Godzilla breathe radioactive breath on Rush Limbaugh?
Under Rush Limbaugh? Absolutely.
Like $1,000. I would totally do that.
Yeah. I'm trying to conjure up how Hannity would handle this. Now, folks, we never said not to take Hedorah seriously. On this program, we never said not to take Hedorah seriously. You should take Hedorah seriously. But you should also take Godzilla seriously. What is he doing in the water? Where does that radioactive breath come from? I'm just asking questions. Yeah. I'm just asking questions.
At the bottom of the ocean, he's down there jerking it all the time.
On this program, we have never said
the ocean is great. Yep.
Right. We've never
that biodiversity is because of Godzilla come. Yep.
That's right.
I think I can bring us back on track to the like narrative thread of this movie by describing what happens. I think the next piece of this movie is we see a surrealistic video montage where there's a bunch of postage stamp sized little video clips all over the screen, most of them repeating, and one of them is just a baby that's buried up to the chest in the ground and screaming, crying.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you make new people. You plant a baby.
You plant a baby and then
a baby tree, and then you go and pick the babies.
I feel like they were trying to communicate that this buried baby is the result of Pollution?
Yeah,
We're
probably.
burying the future. We're like destroying,
Look,
yeah.
man, this is like right around the same
Man.
time as we got like the crying Native American commercial. So like whatever we could do to sort of drive home the right. That was
This
around
is-
this time, right?
This came out 2 years after a river in Ohio caught on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and a year before the Clean Water Act in the U.S. I don't know what was going on in Japan at the time, but it was. I think the U.S. was leading the charge there, but not by much. So like everyone was aware of the state of things when this movie came out.
Isn't this the
Yeah.
same year also as
This is the same
Get
year.
Carter?
This is the same year as the Cody Iron Eyes Cody crying Native American commercial. This is the same year.
Oh, same year. Okay.
So,
yeah.
And yeah, I
Sam,
think
that was I also
Get Carter might have been 72, but I'm
were
checking.
you
I just-
gonna
No, 71.
connect
It
Get
was
Carter
71.
it is
to the
71, and that
environmental
movie
movement?
takes place
Because please
in
do
a
that.
smog cloud.
Well, yeah, because it's
Oh.
he goes back home to the
Right.
coal town where he's from, and everybody's miserable and it sucks. And at the end, the last like action beat in that movie is like in a like the coal like gondola, basically, right? Like, so yes,
Yeah, good point.
yeah.
So the next scene in the movie is Burning Man.
Yeah, right. So they decide that they're gonna stop Hedorah and motivate the adults to stop polluting by the cool young uncle and his girlfriend and a bunch of their friends are gonna have Burning Man at Mount Fuji, basically.
I couldn't tell whether are they supposed to have like resigned to their death and it's like a suicide pact.
No, I thought
Or-
no, I was getting like positive vibes will overcome like feels
Wait a minute.
from that.
Oh, see,
That's-
I
I
was
thought that's
getting,
what they were
like-
going for.
I was getting like, let's have one last party.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought it
yeah.
was. I thought it was like they knew they were going to die, but then when that becomes imminent, they run away. And
No, I thought doesn't he say? I thought the cool uncle says something specifically about how like it's gonna be the youth. Like we're gonna save the day, basically. Like we're gonna maybe he was speaking metaphorically. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is like a kids movie, so I read it very literally as like they were naive enough to think like, no, we're gonna like do something. Maybe your 2021 cynicism just crept in there, and that's why you read it as like they know they're gonna die and they're trying.
Probably.
Because if they knew they were gonna die, why would they all run away? Well, they don't run away at first. They all throw because they know that they're told that like drying Hedorah out and it doesn't like fire and whatever, so they throw torches at him. But it doesn't work.
Yeah, they know that it can be dried out, but they don't. The way they say, at least in the subtitles, like it may have been a smarter line in the original Japanese, but in the Criterion subtitles, they say it's afraid of fire, which they have no evidence of that. Like
Right.
the monster loves hanging out in that like factory
Huffing
district.
smokestacks,
I assume as there's a bunch of fire there.
Yeah. So speaking of earlier, Ethan, you mentioned the pacing is a little scattershot sometimes.
What?
Yeah, and they
No.
when they kind of go from like the doctor, the scientist, Ken's dad is like, we need to build. I used these little electrodes to kill like a little Hedorah, so we need giant electrodes to kill the big Hedorah. Go make me some giant electrodes. And then like 5 minutes later, he's like, are they done? They need to be done. We need to electrocute him now. And we kind of skip over like what is actually involved in building the giant electrodes and how they're handling that. It's just like, the military, they did it. They're just about done. They're right over here. And then it turns out that Godzilla can just power the giant electrodes by breathing his nuclear breath on them. So
Yeah, dude. Nuclear power will save us all. That's the answer to like solving pollution. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he wasn't a bad guy when he blew his breath on the garbage in the ocean, because it's not radioactive in
Hell,
this
it's
movie.
garbage. We don't need it. Get rid of it.
Right.
But he
Just throw it in the
irradiates
ocean.
the ocean.
Don't
Unless he
think about,
didn't do that. Unless
don't
it was,
think
you know,
about it.
The ocean can take care of itself.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, it's big, bigger than
But
Godzilla, even.
Yeah, even Godzilla is not as big.
Is
as the ocean.
tiny compared
That's
to the
right.
ocean. That's just facts, folks.
It's true. It's true. I mean,
There's a lot of pulse pounding action in this movie around the time when we're waiting a really long time for the these electrodes to be built.
yeah, so they're trying to make it like, oh, well, are they going to get the electrodes up and running in time? And then Hedorah, like, picks up Godzilla and throws his ass down the side of Mount Fuji, and he crashes into the electrical, the power lines. And then they can't get the power to the big electrodes, so they have to repair it. Well, Godzilla basically gets thrown into a hole and shit on. Literally shit on. And like encrusted in Hedorah slime, like in this little pit. And at first I was
I
kind
think
of
they omit how he gets out of that.
they really don't explain how he gets out of there. He just shows up and is like crusted over with the stuff and is like he got out somehow. But this is also around the time when he flies by like hugging his tail to his chest and breathing fire and jumping in the air. He's able to fly.
Uh-huh.
With his atomic breath, which again is a moment that a lot of people consider, the
Excellent.
shark jump of
Yeah.
Godzilla.
I don't know how you can consider like a shark jump in a franchise where like the movies before this are like he fights King Kong and then like destroy all
He fights
monsters.
a giant
and, like,
lobster man. He fights a big spider and has his son with stupid
Oh
eyebrows.
god.
yeah, it's like
That all
it-
happened before this, yeah.
Exactly. It's like we're now jumping the shark. Hang on, come on.
Did they call him a Mary Sue?
No, this was
No.
before
Do that
like
now?
the internet did
Alright.
that.
Yeah, that's what I'm. But I
also-
assume
also
what Joe's
before the
referring to
internet.
is somebody mad at the internet.
yeah.
I think I could see why people would have seen this as a shark jump moment, because in my memory of Godzilla movies before this, they all did feel kind of just like out of time, like Godzilla movies. And this one is like absolutely in 1971.
Yeah, all the animated sequences, the science lesson, the scene in the nightclub, like all that stuff definitely feels like of
Feels like
its
something
time.
that would have felt dated 5 years after this movie was made.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, for sure. So I think that you're probably right. That doesn't help it. But also it makes it stand out, right? Like I feel like there's a lot of other movies in the series where Godzilla fights a monster or 2 or 5 or whatever.
Or like a robot of himself.
Or a robot of himself.
Or a space version of himself.
But this one has that, but it also has, these acid trip animated sequences and the fish head nightclub scene and the cat.
James Bond style intro with the
Yes,
singing lady
yes.
and the
We didn't even really-
weird psychedelic imagery.
We completely skipped over that, but yes, it has a James Bond style theme song intro over the credits where
Super dark lyrics that sound like one of those like a black metal, like a shitty black metal band would write.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Yeah.
Where did all the fish go? Where have all the birds gone?
And Hedorah melted them, as it turns out. So
Does anybody remember
It was us.
the action beats in this?
The action what?
Like the action beats in this,
Are
in
they-
this like
okay.
series of
I didn't
2
hear
or
the
3
word
fight
beat.
sequences.
I mean, it's just a lot of Godzilla like hugging Hedorah and breathing nuclear fire at the electrodes, and then the electrodes electrocute him, and then Hedorah like finds a way to get out of it, and then he goes back over there and. But for a minute, I remember thinking like Godzilla will have done nothing. Like the humans will electrocute Hedorah to dry him out and like whatever, and then it will be like Godzilla didn't even do anything. But then it turns out that they actually do need Godzilla to like power the things, and he like wrestles him in there, and everything. So
He wrestles him in there. He powers the electrodes with his own breath, and zaps Hedorah. for the first time, and Hedorah falls down, and then Godzilla makes sure he's dead by destroying his balls, by reaching into his body, pulling out his
Yes.
balls, and I guess electrocuting his balls.
Which, yeah, they don't ever. That's another thing. Speaking of the haphazard pacing of this film, they never explain what those are. Like,
they're his balls.
yeah, right. Clearly, because he definitely reproduces sexually. We've seen
Yeah.
that, right? So we know that. Obviously, there's a lady Hedorah out there somewhere that he's gonna fuck. Yeah, he Godzilla just
That's a
reaches
different
in
movie.
and pulls out these two white
Could
orbs.
be male, Joe.
And then nukes the white orbs, but nothing actually happens to Hedorah. Like, he doesn't die because of that. He gets killed after that.
I think if there's a subtext beyond there, his balls, and Godzilla destroys his manhood, which is why after that he becomes susceptible to Godzilla's attacks.
Yeah.
I think the doctor, the dad, says something about how he gets, like, there are some radioactive metals in him that are how he gets his power to fly and such. So I assumed they were supposed to be some kind of like radioactive ore, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, something like that. They never really explain it to us, though. But yeah, and that's another, like, this is like the third time he does it, but like they keep showing him like punching through Hedorah and all this like sludge coming out, and it's kind of gross. Again, like for a kids movie, it's like pretty wild.
Dude, fucking in Dragon Ball Z, Goku Frieza punches a hole like entirely through like multiple people, and they showed that shit on TV.
Yeah.
Fucking whatchamacallit, Fist of the North Star. We
Yeah,
did
but
a
only
thing
on the
that.
adult
Fist
channel.
of the North Star was not a children's movie, Alex. This movie was rated G when it came out in the U.S. and had like
Talk
minimal
about the
cuts.
TV show in Japan, like the TV show that was on.
Was it
People
for-
still get their asses exploded.
Well, sure, but
It doesn't matter who it's
for
for. It
kid-
was on
Yeah, it does
TV.
matter who
Anybody
it's
could have
for.
watched it
That's-
at any time.
That okay.
They used to card you when you changed the channel.
Yeah, that's what.
You forget that.
Yeah, I sorry, it's been so long. I
Yeah,
forgot.
fucking millennial over here.
Fucking Zoomer over here,
Yeah.
forgetting about
Right.
swiping the card.
Uh-huh.
That's what we used to call it. Like, want to come over
Uh-huh.
to my house and swipe
We'll
your
swipe
card?
the card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it means something different. Disgusting Zoomers. I don't know what that would be, but that's the joke.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Right.
Anyway,
So,
what's up, guys?
anyways, yeah, I don't know, and then that's really about it, right? Then he finally gets him in there, and they nuke / electrocute him one last time, and
Yeah, they sort of repeat the same
then-
sequence
Yeah,
twice. Like
right.
they have a hand-to-hand fight, and then Godzilla zaps him and reaches into him, and that's when he destroys his balls. But then Hedorah flies away. Godzilla.
uh-oh. Oh no, technical difficulties. I'm going to vamp a little bit here. We're going to get back into this thing. Let's see here. You can only hear me right now, but you'll hear everybody else in just a second. I might go back and cut this out of the archive version, but I might not, because who knows. But hopefully everybody will get back in here in just a second. Let's see here. All right. I think we're back. Are we back? Is everybody back?
I'm back.
Yeah, there we go.
Where did I get cut off?
They
I
do
was
the
just
they do the
describing
same
the-
sequence twice.
Yeah, I was just describing the incredibly boring action finale of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a good opportunity to ask: Is do we think that this even is an action movie?
So I was
You
kind of
know-
thinking about that.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say no.
I didn't want to broach the subject.
I mean, I don't. We did like we did an episode on 12 Monkeys at one point.
I was gonna
right? So,
call out
like,
exactly that. Like we do not have a high bar.
Oh
for
yeah, I don't
what we
care that we're
consider.
doing it. I'm just gonna say like no though.
But like,
Yeah,
what I mean, are
that.
kaiju movies like a separate genre unto themselves? Are we saying that like that is
yeah,
the genre?
I think it's easy to argue that they fall within the genre of action movies, but it's like underneath and off to the side. None of them move like action movies do.
Right. I think, yeah, I agree with that. I think like some people I think might put them as a subgenre of horror because they're monster movies, and I think some of them are. Stuff like Cloverfield, the original Godzilla, certainly I think are closer to a subgenre of horror than action. But I mean, you kind of watch these movies to watch the big monsters punch each other. So I think it's a subgenre of action, I think, generally speaking.
Yeah, and I think part of it might also be that they're some of the only, I mean, maybe there's a big example here that I'm missing, but it feels like besides anime, they're some of the only Japanese movies that really have a lot of like pop culture cachet in the West.
Yes.
And like the Japanese film editing style is different.
Yeah. And also prior to anime, right? I mean, I guess we had like, Speed Racer and Astro Boy and Gigantor, but like, I think, especially like just, I remember when I was a kid, like talking to my parents, they didn't know that Speed Racer was Japanese. They didn't know that, Astro Boy was Japanese. I didn't know that Robotech and Voltron were Japanese as a kid. But I think because the original Godzilla takes place in Japan, even the American version, the Perry Mason cut, still takes place in Japan. Like, so I think people still kind of knew that these kaiju movies were Japanese more so than they realized early anime was actually Japanese in origin. So I think like this, like, and then of course if you were like an art house snob, like you knew Kurosawa films. But I think in terms of like big pop culture breakthrough stuff, like I think probably Godzilla's like the OG of like Japanese pop culture to break through.
Mm-hmm.
So I and I think now anime has like a bigger, an outsized, like, I mean, although anime is weird, right? Because there's a lot of things fall under anime that, like kaiju is a much more specific defined thing than anime.
Is it?
Yeah. Yes.
But like, is like what are you saying about anime? That's what I'm like. Like that's what my question. You're like anime is like this
Because
weird.
any anime is any animated movie
Right.
/ TV show / whatever that comes from
Right,
Japan,
it can
whereas
be-
kaiju is a rubber monster
Right.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Like anime can be romantic and grounded and down to earth, or it can
Oh, you mean
be
like
genre?
Godzilla.
Okay,
Right,
I get it. Okay,
yeah.
okay. Now I see. What
Just
you're
like
as opposed to
Godzilla.
like kaiju movies are a specific genre of
saying.
thing.
Yeah. All right. So what I think I'm taking away from this is there should be like a romance / kaiju movie. That would be fucking the shit.
Yes.
I'm into that.
Yes. I mean, wasn't Monsters kind of was that, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Kind of, sort of. Or that's what it was called, right? Anthony, I feel like you hated that movie. Is that the one that you hated?
Which one?
Monsters, where like you don't really ever see. It's like, kind of like in the aftermath, and it's like about
Yeah, that
this
movie was
couple.
boring.
But that's like kind of the romantic kaiju movie.
It kind
a
of
little
is.
bit,
Yeah,
you know?
I can. Right.
Um,
Though the romance has nothing to do with the kaiju.
right. It's
See,
not
that's
the
where the
kaiju
problem
are
is.
not romancing each other.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I don't want to see that, but that's
What Alex
Never mind.
wants, Alex wants The Shape of Water, but like Voltron or Voltron,
Yeah.
not Voltron, Godzilla instead of.
no. I want
No,
Voltron.
You want
Godzilla
Voltron?
and- no,
Yeah.
no, Godzilla and Voltron.
The giant robot
Too
fucks
much
the giant
power.
lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's gonna form Blazing Sword?
But you know who's gonna.
But
Yeah.
It's gonna be the 5 people with the lions.
Is that
and they
Manila
always-
prequel?
Yes, exactly. That's where Manila comes from. So yeah, I don't know. I think that I am surprised it took us this long to do a kaiju movie, because we've done slasher movies, and we did The Stuff, which like kind of almost turns into a kaiju movie at the end when the big stuff monster is like when they're at the stuff bottling facility. We've done a lot of that kind of weirder shit and I'm kind of surprised this is our first kaiju movie.
Those were Halloween movies.
That is true.
I don't know if we necessarily had a great excuse to do a kaiju movie.
Yeah.
Also, I don't dislike these movies, but there's definitely a point where I just kind of check out.
Mhm.
I don't like.
They all
kaiju
kind of
movies.
when you
seem the
press
same
play.
to me. Yeah.
I
don't know.
I
don't know
think
if like I said, I don't. It's not that I dislike any of them, but they all
I
are kind of just
dislike them.
exactly the same to me.
I dislike them. I think because it's like whenever you watch, like, in theory, it's like, dude, you want to watch like a giant dinosaur fuck up like a giant snail, like Snog Monster UFO Man? It's like, fuck yeah, dude, that sounds tight. And then it's like you put it on and it's just like the fucking. Even when I was a little kid, I was like, wow, those those fucking costumes look like dog shit. Like as a kid, when I was like 6, I was like, this is not believable even a little bit. And it's like, is the fight choreography good? It's like, no, it's just 2 guys very slowly swinging at each other around a bunch of fucking models. And it's like, damn, dude, this fucking sucks ass. Like
Godzilla does giant swing the.
he
Smog
does.
monster.
He does. He's a Cesaro style giant.
I'm not saying
swings.
there's not good stuff. I'm just like.
So you were not a Power Rangers kid, Alex, is what you're saying.
Here's the thing. I actually, at one point in my life, I went through a weird phase where I was like too cool for anime, but I like watched like Super Sentai videos that were translated and like fan sub.
That is fucking kaiju, Alex.
Hang on, but here's the thing. I skipped through all the scenes with the kaiju shit because I hated the kaiju shit. I was basically just watching a live action anime because I was watching all the like goofy character stuff and them fighting the monsters.
Those shows are just
basically
like bad teenage.
Yeah.
It
wasn't a long phase,
right?
but it
All those
happened.
shows without
This is neither here nor there, but I was reading about this recently.
Yeah.
Have any of you read about like the shooting conditions on at least the U.S. footage that was used in Power Rangers?
Well, didn't the
Oh,
guy?
yeah.
It was like
bet it was
a
really
non-union,
good.
like non-union. They were paying people like $200 an episode or something with no royalties, and they forced the guy who plays Billy,
Yeah.
who was on like 3 different Power Rangers series, to go to conversion therapy.
Right. As I say, he quit
What?
the show because he's gay, right? Eventually, they bullied him or whatever, and he quit
Eventually, but
eventually.
he hung on for like a decade, and including getting sent to some
Great.
camp.
Jesus Christ.
Well, Haim
no.
Saban is a piece of shit. Like we all know that,
Yeah.
right? Haim Saban is a gigantic piece of shit. Like
I bring that up because we mentioned Power Rangers. Don't watch Power Rangers on streaming. Torrent it if you have nostalgia for it, but don't watch
Haim
it on streaming.
Saban sold. Well, maybe he did kind of steal it in the first place, but he sold the U.S. rights, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
I thought like Nickelodeon owned the Power Rangers now.
Could be.
or something
That makes
like
sense.
that. But yeah, he's a
Fucking
real
steal it anyway, man. Who cares?
he's a real piece of work. I mean, yeah, sure, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think he.
He's profiting off.
Of course, he made sure he got the royalties for the fucking theme song, so he got paid because he wrote the theme song. He wrote a bunch of theme songs. That was like how his entry into the world of like children's television was co-writing like music with Shuki Levy, which, to be fair, like they did some of the best like 80s cartoon themes, that exist, but that was like their like foot in the door. His foot in the door to children's television was through the music. So,
And then he just became a piece of shit, apparently.
and then he just became a big old piece of shit. So, yeah, But I can't find if he actually. I thought I heard that he sold the Power Rangers rights to like Nickelodeon or something, but I can't find it.
I think it's
It
better to
is.
just
no.
steal it anyway.
Sorry.
'cause
Him
stealing stuff on the
Saban.
internet-
Sorry, he regained it. I'm sorry. He regained the rights after
Here we go.
Disney had them,
Yep,
and then he got them back. So
It's on. I don't remember what streaming service it's on, but whatever it's on, it's canceled. Just torrent that.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Wait. Okay. Hold on.
Anyway, that's
owned
what we think
it.
about
He
Godzilla. is steal
Disney
Power
owned it.
Rangers.
Disney
Yeah.
owned it. He got it back, and then he sold it to Hasbro.
Hasbro,
So Hasbro
yeah.
has it now.
Okay.
So yeah, steal it. Fuck it.
Whatever. They're all super rich, giant companies, so steal it on the internet.
Yeah. So God, that show has been like continually airing in some
Oh
form
yeah,
or
dude, they
another.
still do the Super Sentai shit too. That's been on since the 50 years now, I guess. Since like the maybe not quite 50, but like early 70s.
Yeah, but it
Yep.
is on Nickelodeon now.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So
All right.
I don't know, dude.
well,
I'll watch guys in suits fuck up guys, but not when they're wearing bad rubber suits and it's slow and boring.
But I
You
think
know what
that,
I mean?
But even
these
when they're
movies-
fighting in like human size, the bad guys are usually in bad rubber suits. Like,
They're not as bad. They're able to do karate in
but
those
but
suits, not just,
sometimes
like fucking.
And they
That's
do
why-
a cool
this is
jump
why-
where the camera is shot from underneath them.
Yeah,
is
they do
why-
that all the time.
Yeah.
you
but-
should just
Fucking
get
good.
way into professional wrestling.
right, exactly.
I mean,
Eric is
yeah.
correct.
Because Joe and I skip all the bullshit and
yeah.
just watch half-naked dudes punch fake
Right,
punch each other for 3 or 4 hours.
Although-
every
I
day.
skipped all the
Great.
bullshit too. I told you, I skipped through the kaiju stuff.
Right. Although we don't get the occasional like
Gotta.
Brian the occasional Bryan Cranston voiceover. We miss out on that,
That's true,
which
yeah.
apparently
There was a Bryan Cranston voiceover in Power Rangers.
Yes.
Or no, Godzilla.
no in Power no
Really?
in Power Rangers
Oh, I thought you were talking about wrestling.
no. I'm saying I am. We don't get the Bryan Cranston voiceover in wrestling. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
He was the voice of like one or two of the villains in like one of the really early seasons before he
Was
was
he
like a
Zordon?
known actor. No, it was like a Monster of the Week thing. He provided the voices of Snizzard and Twin Man during the first season of Mighty Morphin Power
greatest role.
Rangers.
Snizzard.
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was Twin Man. A dual
God,
role.
I want. Now I'm imagining Walter White's face as like a giant Zordon.
Well,
Rangers. This is not
too
meth.
late, yeah.
All right.
mhm.
Well, I'm getting out of here. I need to go to bed.
Let's do Son of Godzilla next month.
no.
Yeah, let's just do
I
all
have an
that.
idea. I have an idea for next month that I want to share with you. No,
I actually-
save
I have-
it for
I have-
off the-
Yeah, I have an idea for something in the near future, not necessarily next month, but we'll save it for the
Yeah,
when we're
I've
off
got
it.
lots of ideas.
I don't have anything else to say about.
I have one other thing to say
right, good.
actually, which is
Do it.
I forgot to
Do it.
mention this. Joe, I don't know if did the poster image that you put up for the stream survive the call closing
Yes,
and everything?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that's the Japanese poster of this movie. I pasted this link for you guys in the previous chat. I just did again.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
very good.
I really
I don't
like
know
that,
if
yeah.
any of our listeners are aware of the Polish movie poster industry and how in Poland, I don't know if they're still doing this, but at least for a long time, they would bring in independent artists to do Poland-specific posters for movies that were completely surreal and really, to varying degrees, had almost nothing to do with the actual content of the movie.
I'm going to
and,
put it up on the. I'm gonna
Yeah.
bring
The
it up.
Polish poster for Godzilla versus Hedorah, which is Godzilla contra Hedorah, contra with a K, and then there's no H on the end of Hedorah, is one of the most beautiful movie posters I've ever seen.
It's really great. This looks like something that Mondo would do like next week.
Yeah.
It's really great. I like it a lot.
No, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
All I got to say on that.
The poster, I would say, is better than the movie.
the movie. Oh wait, nobody mentioned the eyes. Who wants to? That was Eric. Did Eric actually leave the call? Because that was Eric's little fun fact that he gave us in the email thread.
Oh yeah, he read that. What was it? It was the designer of the creature, or maybe it was the director.
Let me see if I can find his. He's still in the call, but he's not talking. So,
According to an interview with Yoshimitsu Banno by the Japanese magazine Eiga Hiho, Hedorah's eyes were modeled after vaginas. Which they're not. It would be vulvas.
I see it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So there you go.
Every
See, I told you.
every subtext to text.
The singing lady,
is covered in
the
this.
singing lady having a clam on her clam is not an accident because, the eyes.
None of us
were-
said it
were-
was an accident. We all were like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah. So, eye vaginas. All right. Anybody have anybody have any other thoughts about Godzilla
Did you
versus
mention?
Hedorah?
I was late. Did you mention the IPCC
Yes,
report?
yes,
as
of course,
okay,
of course we
good,
did.
excellent, good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I'll go back and listen to
we
it.
should have listened to Godzilla 50 years ago, and we're reaping,
Yep.
what we've sown by not listening to Godzilla 50 years ago, or Iron Eyes Cody, the weeping Native American from the commercial that came out the same year. So
Anthony, I think you're probably the only one who's read it, or at least read like the executive summary.
Mhm.
So it's all good, right? Like we're good.
Oh yeah, good stuff in there.
Everything, great stuff is happening everywhere.
cool, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that that's the case. I was worried we were maybe like heating up the planet so much we might kill a lot of life on Earth, but
Godzilla, yeah. Godzilla might die.
We haven't seen him in a while.
sure.
That's not true, dude. Godzilla versus Kong was like a few
That's
months
true.
ago.
That's also true. Yeah. So there you go.
Have you looked at the photos of what Godzilla used to look like? Are you sure
Yeah.
that's the same?
I think he's just doing drugs
I think it's
again.
a double.
It's sad. He's relapsed.
It is sad.
Can't fucking giant swing smog monsters anymore. Oh boy. We have fun, don't we?
Till the last.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for
Vaguely talking about Godzilla for a while.
vaguely talking about Godzilla for a while, and we'll be back next. We actually will be back next month. We're not going to skip another month. I don't think we'll be back next month with I don't know
Yeah, we
what
will.
yet. Something else. Alex has an idea. We'll hear about it off air, and you'll hear about it
Could
next
be
month.
bad.
Maybe
Could be really bad.
could be. Probably is because it's Alex. So
We're gonna do an episode that's a biography on Toho's bassoon player. The MVP
I'm
of the
down.
movie.
Let's go. I'm ready.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to end the stream now. So thanks everybody
Good,
for
please.
watching. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, Joe.
Peace.